are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe truth is larger than any one book or way. Religion and science go hand in hand. Integrity requires freedom of conscience. Diversity is something to celebrate. In the struggle for justice, we come alive. Our highest aspiration and calling is love. We are mothers. Dust and the sons of great visions, we're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and makers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. And whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever path you are on, you are welcome here.
The flame of justice, fierce and bright, flickers with a holy light, fed by hands that know the pain of battles lost and lives in vain. The Spirit, quiet as the dawn, breathes life into the flame. It whispers to withdrawn hearts that justice and spirit are the same. The world turns on a fragile thread, woven tight by hands unseen. Every prayer and every dread is bound within the Spirit's seam. The wind that sweeps the barren land carries with it the Spirit's cry, lifting the weak, guiding the hand that strikes for justice loud and high. When night is cold and long, the Spirit wraps the world in song, a hymn of hope, a cry for peace, a call that builds all hatred cease. So let us march with hearts aflame, with Spirit guiding every claim. For justice born of sacred fire will lift us higher, ever higher.
Good morning, how are you this morning? Oh, there I am. Yeah, good. Doing good? It's dry in here. Right? Wet out there. Best place to be on a Sunday morning, here, West Shore UU Church. So glad you're here this morning. We got so much good that's going on here. Did you see your West Shore Weekly as an insert in your order of service? Oh my gosh, just take a look at it with me real quickly. Third item down, Reiki Clinic, fireside room right after services. You might have been here for our Power of Touch worship service. You know, if you're interested in Reiki, check it out. Beautiful. Right below that, UU's Together Summer Gathering, 1 o'clock. If you're wanting to connect with fellow UUs here in the Cleveland area, that's a great place to check that out. Well, look at that at the bottom here. 3rd annual backpack blessing. All learners are invited to bring their backpacks or other symbol of learning to church next Sunday to receive a special blessing during the worship service. You know, I'm going on sabbatical this year, and most of it's going to be study, scholarship, so I guess I should bring a backpack next week. Well, okay, real quickly, just flip the page there. Wow, look, okay, third item from the top, service auction sponsors needed, right? You could be a yacht, $500 and up, a catamaran, you see that? Motorboat, rowboat, canoe. If you offer $25 to $49 to sponsor our service auction, how cool is that? And then at the bottom there, among the West Shore family, I wanted to be sure you saw this. We have a new staff person. Sandy Regula. She is going to be our new programs assistant, previously held by Dorothy Richards, who retired in June. So if you see Sandy around, welcome her to West Shore. She has worked with us before, so we're really excited that she's joining us again. So lots of great stuff going on here at West Shore, ways of learning, growing, deepening into your spiritual practice, making relationships, building relationships, all these good things. So check us out. If you are here for the first or second time and you do not mind people knowing, please raise your arm. Folks, welcome. Yeah. And like I usually say, if you didn't raise your arm, that's fine too. I'm an introvert. I understand, right? Introverts, that can be the hardest thing to do. So you are all welcome here. We're going to turn to our greeting each other time. Let's do that. We will finish our greeting time at the sounding of the bowl. So be listening for that. Let's greet each other. Come to this good morning, remembering the journey of freedom. The land we are on was once another's. We mourn the legacies of oppression. Healing is our way forward. Joy is the birthright of all. So at the congregational meeting in May of 2023, this congregation voted to affirm its collective justice vision. Over the course of 5 years, the 5 main justice strategies we want to implement, because you want to implement them, include, number 1, greater accountability to our social justice commitment. Number 2, strengthen connection between social justice and spirituality. That's what we're talking about today. Number 3, increased participation in social justice activities. Number 4, increased support for partnerships with area organizations. And number 5, increased resource support for social justice programs and volunteers. As I said, this is what this congregation voted to affirm, and the work has already begun. It continues. Part of that work, that initial work, was gathering a steering team to steer this effort. The Justice Vision Steering Team. Mary Jo Maish, Reverend Shirley Nelson, Shan Spellman, Gloria Beamer, Stasha Powell were collaborating today on this service. Give these folks a round of applause, all right? There's Stasha back there. You know, to make anything happen here at West Shore, leadership is critical. The gift of talent and time. And so are your gifts of treasure. Help us to be the best congregation that we can be. Help us max out on our collective justice vision and max out on all of our other priorities and commitments as a beloved community. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Good morning, West Shore. I'm Mary Jo Maish from the Justice Vision Steering Team. So the title of my reflection is just how are justice and spirituality connected? For me, spirituality is a heart sense. When I met with a spiritual director regularly, she always started by asking me how my spirit was today. At first, I wasn't sure how to answer that question, but over time, I paid attention to what gave me joy, what awed me, what flowed through me, how the sunlight sparkled on a cobweb when I was walking my dog, how the fragrance of the flowers in my garden filled my lungs and put a smile on my face. All of these moments, paying attention to them, are elements of how I care for myself. Then there's justice. Cornel West says, justice is what love looks like in public. But I'm hardwired to go back to the Bible verses I learned as a kid. And a favorite Bible text of mine is from Micah. What is required of you, O mortal? To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. Justice has always been something I am to do. And it makes me pay attention to it in public, whether in the community, here at church, in our culture, indeed our country. I believe our values, our culture, require care and practice for them to do this love of fellow human beings. I grew up largely in the absence of any multicultural interactions. The diversity I experienced at school was having good friends who were Roman Catholic or Reformed Jews. I came to Cleveland in 1970 to go to Case Western's nursing school and vastly expanded the racial diversity of the people I met and cared for the whole rest of my career. As a UU, we have been addressing the impact of white supremacy in our country and in our denomination for many years. Yes, we have made mistakes, and we have learned we have to apologize and learn ways not to repeat the same harm again. I believe the work of building a healthy white identity is holy work and is something I have made a commitment to lifelong. I find this is where I must, quote, walk humbly with my God. UUs are not known for their humility, and neither am I. Staying in the face of messy relationships calls for taking a few deep breaths and reminding yourself to stay in the room. Find out what you can learn. See if we can learn together how to love this way. I have been growing my capacity to witness the effects of racism, which used to be invisible to me. Now I find it everywhere. The Project 2025 project, healthcare disparities, gerrymandering, the list goes on and on. Again, the self-care work is critical. One of my spiritual practices is to read the daily meditation from the Center for Action and Contemplation. This is what Father Richard Rohr says about that Micah quote. For me, walking humbly with my God means to feel the direction of the current of change, to sniff the wind of justice and follow it where it leads. It means being willing to change how I live if it will ensure that others will find freedom. Remember, there are two worlds, always. The world as it operates is power. The world as it should be is love. The secret of kingdom life is how we can live both simultaneously. I believe to be a beloved community, we must commit to each other's spiritual growth, build our skills, our resilience, our love to build the just world we dream about.
Good morning, West Shore. I'm Reverend Shirley Nelson. Good morning. I love to drive by churches and read the messages on their outdoor bulletin boards. Some informative, thoughtful, and meaningful, while others are downright hilarious. I saw one on a Baptist church recently that said, "Forgive your enemies, it messes with their heads." I tend to remember the messages that are rather pragmatic and gives me cause to pause. West Shore's message is very visible, and I imagine it's one of the reasons that people decide to come here. Some stand out more than others, and that was the case a few weeks ago when I entered the parking lot for Tuesday morning meditation. In order to get it just right, I should have doubled back to write it down, but I didn't, so I'm going to paraphrase it. Want to help change the world? Nourish your soul and take care of yourself. What does taking care of yourself have anything to do with changing the world? A lot. Today, more than ever, we have access to information unlike ever before since the dawn of time, and the options are many. The 6 o'clock news and local newspapers have become like dinosaurs in comparison to the internet, Twitter, Instagram, CNN, and all kinds of talk shows where folks are giving us their spin on any given topic. The bottom line is, you can't run and you can't hide. One way or the other, the state of affairs will enter into your world and will cause you to feel some kind of way. Most of the sorrows of the world are so huge that we have no way of comprehending what we can possibly do to help. But in the meantime, it is taking its toll, and the burden of injustice weighs heavily on our soul. At times, it can feel like a tsunami when we are confronted with a multitude of injustices in life: sexism, ableism, ageism, racism, genocide, child abuse, elder abuse, homelessness, human trafficking, polluted air, water, soil, and toxic waste, just to name a few. What do you do with all that toxicity? Like bumper cars in an amusement park, we are buffeted around and jolted each time another car slams into us. Those thick bumpers around the rim are what protects us from bumper car whiplash. And it helps when we have a similar way of protecting ourselves amidst the vicissitudes of life. We were not built for information overload, and we cannot live our best lives, regardless of where you are on the food chain, when others are struggling to simply make ends meet. We cannot turn a blind eye when people are suffering and the compassion in you asks, how can I help? A lot of people want to help, but where do you start? Not knowing how or what to do to make this world a better place can be frustrating and often feels like trying to eat an elephant or climb a mountain when you really don't have a taste for it or the tools to do the job. What if we simply start with ourselves? If we're going to be warriors in the stream of life as change makers, we've got to be equipped to stay the course. I surmise that changing the world starts with one individual at a time. This is where the intersection of spirituality, inner work, and activism, social justice work come together. Because at the end of the day, the goal is the same. We want to make this a world that works for all. If you want to see a world that is compassionate, caring, equitable, and just, it starts with you. When you are able to transform anger into positive energy, you are moving in the right direction. When you are willing to deal with the weapons within that drain your energy, you are on the right path. This is the work of activists throughout the course of time who have realized that in order to conquer the injustice in our day-to-day lives, big or small, we've got to first rectify the acts of violence within our own souls. When deep spirituality, understanding, and reverence for the sacred are combined with focused action in the face of chaos, suffering, and violence, it is a center of dynamic energy and daring that creates a tiny ripple of hope. Goliath was armed with weapons of mass destruction, but David used a slingshot to defeat him. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Zechariah 4th chapter, 6th verse. Cultivate the spirit within by choosing spiritual practices that fortify your body, mind, and soul, while walking hand in hand with others doing the same. In so doing, not only will you overcome inner conflicts, but you become better equipped to handle the raging recklessness of this world. Albert Camus, French philosopher, author, activist, and journalist, reminds us of the strength that comes from within. He says, "In the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy. For in ways that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me, there is something stronger, something better, pushing right back." End of quote. Being Black in America, I've had to develop strength from within. I've dealt with whiplash in the form of microaggressions all of my life. They're like tiny little arrows or annoying paper cuts that won't cause you to bleed, but over time are insulting and deeply hurtful. You know what I'm talking about. Questions like, "Can I touch your hair? You talk different than other Black people. How come y'all are always late?" Or being followed in department stores and harassed when driving while Black and being murdered in cold blood because of the color of our skin. I can't fight the whole world, but I can do what I can to take care of myself so that I can keep on living and trying to thrive. For me, the key to survival has been spiritual practices that bring a sense of solace and comfort so that I'm able to stay on the battlefield and maintain my sanity. I start my mornings with quiet time just for me. Included is music, prayer, meditation. Sometimes I journal. Sometimes I dance. Sometimes I walk. And sometimes I just sit still. Throughout the day, I give thanks for anything that resonates with my soul, that is beautiful, merciful, and righteous. There's more, but not for today's sermon. Look for ways to cultivate spiritual practices in the September issue of Shorelines. Amen.
After the worship service, come on to the sermon chat. It's in the chapel at noon, and get to know these inspiring people more. Find out more about what's happening in our Justice Vision steering team, but just exploring, going deeper into this topic of spirituality, social justice. So once again, guys, fantastic, fantastic. And now let us, as a community, enter into the ritual of "For All That Is Our Lives." the joys and sorrows of our hearts, the ones that have been written down here, will remain unspoken. I'll take them into my meditations this week and pray for all that is our life. So every year in January, we celebrate one of history's greatest leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We celebrate him, his dream of racial and social justice. But you know, he had to grow into that leadership. He had to grow into it, and his relationships were critical to this. And of course, this is true, of course, but in our American culture of radical individualism, we can fall for the illusion that heroes like Dr. King were purely self-made. Even more than that they sprang from the womb, fully formed in all of their abilities. He sprang from the womb, preaching those sermons. There's probably other reasons why regular people like you and me might shy away from calling ourselves leaders. But this is a big one, because we tend to make great leaders into superhuman saints who don't need to learn, who don't make mistakes, who don't need encouragement from other people. In this respect, one facet of a spirituality of social justice is about bringing leadership down to earth, bringing compassion and patience and understanding to the very real process of learning how to be the change we wish to see in our world. So let me tell you a not very well-known story about Dr. King's leadership formation process. It had to do with the time he was invited to become a part of the Montgomery bus boycott. As you know, first of all, there was the great Rosa Parks, her refusal to obey the bus driver's demand that she give up her seat. Dr. King's biographer, Marshall Frady, tells us what happened next. He says, Rosa Parks' no and her arrest quickly set off a spontaneous combustion among Montgomery's black citizenry to boycott that city's segregated bus system. Almost immediately, mimeographed leaflets calling for this boycott were coursing through the city's black neighborhoods. But when, the night of Mrs. Parks' arrest, a local social activist by the name of E.D. Nixon phoned the young Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. To ask him to join the boycott movement, King, out of some uneasiness beyond just his absorption in his multiple other duties, seemed curiously reluctant. Brother Nixon, he said, let me think on it a while and call me back. Marshall Frady goes on to say that Nixon became concerned about King's hesitation, and so he went on to call King's friend, great friend, Ralph Abernathy. Abernathy turned right around, called his friend King, telling him that his cooperation in the boycott effort would be of monumental importance. And ultimately, it was Ralph Abernathy's counsel which led to Dr. King saying yes. And from that yes, everything flowed. The respect he earned as a leader of the Montgomery bus boycott, it led to his role in founding with others the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and this led to his leadership in civil rights campaigns in Albany, and then Birmingham, and then Augustine and Selma, and then the March on Washington, and his soaring "I Have a Dream" speech, and beyond. But it all started with Montgomery and the not very well-known story of Dr. King's initial hesitation, which gave way to Ralph Abernathy's encouragement. What if Dr. King had instead stayed stuck in that position of thinking on it a while? Which is really just a nice way of saying, no! What if? Without Montgomery, would there ever have been "I Have a Dream"? Of course, hindsight is 2020. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "We live forwards, but we understand backwards." With only the knowledge that is given to us in the moment, already full of the pressures of existing responsibilities and also anticipating future work we already know of. I mean, it is truly understandable and fully human to hesitate when a call to something new comes before you, when a call to get involved comes before you. Dr. King was only human, and this is something we need to be reminded of so that we can be more confident leaders in our own right. Especially because there is that confusion out there about what it takes to learn how to be an activist. One person acting alone is the message that we hear over and over again. Nothing, or not much, about family, the larger supportive community you find yourself in, the worship services, the committee work, the coalition building, the flurry of letters and emails and phone calls, and in the midst of it all, above all, key sustaining friendships. People whose judgment you trust, so that even if all the world is criticizing you, if they believe in you, you believe. People who will lift you up when you need it. People who will bring you down back to earth if you need that too. Nothing about any of this mentioned in the standard story about our social justice heroes. Just one person acting alone. I remember seeing an article about Rosa Parks, and that literally was the title in this major newspaper. One person acting alone. That is not the story. That is false. Rugged individualism, false. It's just not true. You can't get to Dr. King without his parents and his families and his teachers, the black church community, liberal religious communities supporting him, like this one, like the UUs, all the committee meetings, all the worship and prayer and hymn singing, all the friends and colleagues. You just can't get to Dr. King also without Ralph Abernathy, the man who reconnected him to his sense of call and purpose when he hesitated, the man who was with him throughout until the very end and then beyond. I'm asking you this morning, who is your Ralph Abernathy? Who believes in you so you can believe in yourself? There's many dimensions to a spirituality of social justice. Mary Jo spoke to the heart sense dimension. Reverend Shirley spoke to the self-care dimension. And right now, I am speaking to the dimension of our relationships and how we need to help each other into the activism that is right for us and sustainable for us. You know, I am so excited about Tim Walz as Kamala Harris's running mate. I really am. Hope and joy are just buzzing through their politics, right? Isn't that what's happening? I mean, what a change. Thank the Buddha. But it is Tim Walz's style of encouragement and support that I am particularly happy about. He is giving that to Kamala. He's giving it to all of us. And there's nothing new about this in him. It's just who he is. I was reading an article the other day about his old football team at Mankato West in Mankato, Minnesota, back when he coached their defense. This was years ago, I think the mid to late 1990s. The team had been terrible when he got there. I think 1 win, 26 losses over the course of several years. Kind of like a bad news Bears team, right? But when Walz arrived, he brought a kind of Ralph Abernathy energy that transformed things. Chuck West, one of his players, said about him, he was so full of positive energy, he was our hype man. Adam Friedman, another player, had this to say: when I was a junior, I was a punt returner. I muffed a punt, and they could tell I had the yips. Coach Walz came to me and said, okay, we're not going to fix this right now. We're going to put someone else in there for you, but we're going to figure this out. Do not worry. He goes on to say, I was just really upset about that whole thing. I remembered that. A year later, he says, I returned a punt, 80 yards. We ended up scoring and won. I got interviewed after the game. Coach Walz came up to me and said, what'd you say to them? I said, I thank my blockers. He said, aw, man, good work. You should take credit too, though. That was amazing. Yet a third player remembers Coach Walz saying, let's go. You are better than that. This is how we're going to do it. We got to understand our past, but that's not our future. You got that? We got to understand our past, but that is not our future. Are you dedicated, he went on to say? Do you want to be a football player or someone who just plays football? We're in it together. It's that, his players say. That sort of thing, which was the biggest thing he brought to the table. The culture of enthusiasm. West Shore, a spirituality of social justice can mean so many different things, but this above all, spirit. Spiritedness. Let's encourage each other. Be Ralph Abernathy's and Tim Walz's to each other. If you have said no to an invitation to get involved, must that be your final decision? What if you said yes instead? Where might that take you? Do you want to be the change you wish to see in this world, or just someone who is waiting passively at the sidelines? Like Coach Walz says, let's go! Let's go! Oh my God, come on, folks. You're my football players. Let's go! Come on. We have got to understand our past, but that's not our future. Just like Coach Walz says, we're in this thing together. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Amen. Let's say our extinguishing the chalice words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. Build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land. Hey, Dave, Dave? Dave? One moment, please. One moment. Dave. Dave? Hey, Dave. Dave. Dave, one moment, please. I got to change the lyrics to that hymn. They were supposed to be changed because when it says, come build a land where sisters and brothers, well, there's just a whole lot more to the world than just sisters and brothers. So we're going to sing, come build a land where people together. Got that? Right? That's a justice issue, isn't it? So I hope to never interrupt Dave, but I just had to do that. So let's remember that adjusted lyric, and can we start that up again? Would y'all mind? All right, let's do it. Here we go. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where people together, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where people together, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where people together, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. So our benediction today is an interactive one, and we're going to need a couple people to step up and volunteer to join us. So I think a couple folks, yes, please come on up here for our interactive benediction. Folks, this is the Sunday to come to church. I'm just saying. We got an interactive benediction. The spirituality of social justice includes honoring the web of connection that unites us in our work. As Dr. King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Can you say that last part with me? Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Let's say it together. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Okay, so right now we are going to use this ball of yarn to illustrate this web of connections most clearly. All right, here we go. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. We'll just go ahead and throw it. Go ahead and throw it. Go ahead and toss it. Yeah, go toss it. Come on, Howard. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. Reverend Shirley. Did you see that line drive? Inescapable network of mutuality.
Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly.
Great. We weren't thinking about capacity to actually catch it. So I'm just, just. Oh, I'm gonna toss it. All right, who has it? Okay, ready? Here we go. Here we go. All right.
Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly.
Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Whatever affects us one directly affects all indirectly.
So say with us, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And on that note, go in peace. Remember the web of our interrelationship and social justice work. Go in peace. All right, guys. Come on. I wasn't thinking about